So, do we ever experience an object?
Really?
Right.
Well, it's interesting. The way that the direct path works, the way that a lot of these non-dual enterprises work, is that the answer to a question is always, it's not a final truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's pragmatically serving a purpose at this moment in the inquiry.
Yeah. Right.
So,
I'm willing to go with that.
Okay.
You can take it back later.
So right now, if we say that the color is arising,
Mm-hmm.
we could say the color from that standpoint in the inquiry, the color is arising.
Mm-hmm.
That's a way to see that something external to the color is not the case.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of like plant your feet there and say, that's not happening there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, you have to be sort of, in this inquiry, you have to be very honest and open and a little bit courageous too. It's like you're going on a treasure hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel any twinge of suspicion that there really is something beyond the sensations,
Mm-hmm.
then the most, maybe just think about something else for a couple of weeks and come back to it. But it won't let you go very much farther unless you've dealt with that.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to deal with that twinge of suspicion, doubt.
So, okay, what
Now,
you're saying is that this exercise, you shouldn't be just glossed over. This
Right.
is something you need to do until you're really comfortable and you
Right.
really have it.
Yeah,
or you're never going to be able to make it further.
even if there's times when it seems like you feel to the contrary, if you can see how it hangs together and it makes sense like this, that it can't be that, then you'll never, let's say the contrary kind of feelings come up, you'll always view them with some kind of suspicion. They'll never have the same weight they had before.
Right.
They'll never be able to totally and uncritically convince you.
Mm-hmm.
So then, at that point, when you're investigating this the externality, the things that are supposedly beyond the perceptions, you can say that the perceptions themselves are objects. That's okay. You have to almost, because it doesn't
Subtle
make sense
objects.
beyond there. Yeah.
Subtle objects.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's a huge difference.
Then you'll want to say, well, because we've already seen that there's nothing that can be more than subtle.
Well,
right?
Yeah, we have, but I'm not sure our audience understands the difference even between gross and subtle.
Gross
perception.
just means physical stuff that we said, physical.
Mm-hmm. And subtle being?
Things that can cause like bodily pain,
Right.
physical. Things that can't cause bodily pain, but maybe
Emotional
pain might be subtle, So we can look at those later, but they'll be shown to be objects as well.
Right.
Sometimes they seem like they're real and they're more than objects. And at some point you'll see that they're not even objects and they cannot be objects.
Right.
So when you say, do we ever really experience objects, there's a lot of places to answer the question from.
Right, yeah, as we proceed along. But the good news is we're going down this whole road. So you can say it and take it back and replace it and improve it as we go along.
Right.
But the important thing is you got to bring everyone to point A before you get to point B. Because if half the people get lost at point A, twice as many are going to be lost at point B.
Well, in my experience, talking to many, many people about this, I think the main place that people get lost is the part that seems to be external to the sensations. It's really easy to see that the sensations are objects and to later see that they're not objects. It's harder, much harder to get rid of the feeling that there are things outside. There's lots of feelings and psychological personality characteristics that make that really hard to see. Like
what was that again?
There's a lot of possible blockages to seeing that there's nothing outside of perceptions.
Right.
The whole thing about the
Sure it
solipsism.
is. Well,
being alone, no one wants to be the only thing there.
Alone, loneliness would be part of it. Not being located, very disorienting.
Yeah.
What's above me? What's below me? Where am I?
Sometimes you really shouldn't do this stuff while you're driving. I'm serious.
I understand. I can imagine. That's why I'm not letting you drive. Okay. Because I know you're doing this stuff all the time.